"Sell your dance or lose everything," Leonard Marsh bellowed, his boots slamming into Tala's humble home as she guided her frail daughter Winyan through a sacred Hopi dance. His cruel shove sent Winyan sprawling, her coughs tearing through the morning air. Tala's heart blazed with fury as she hurled a wooden prop at Marsh, grazing his shoulder. The room spun with chaos, accusations igniting like dry tinder, and now Tala faced a warrant for her defiance, her world hanging by a thread. Tala, a 29-year-old Hopi woman in 1930s New Mexico, carries the weight of her people's traditions as a ceremonial dancer, her every step a prayer for her ancestors. Yet poverty and her daughter Winyan's worsening lung disease force her into a white theater troupe, where she plays a mocked Indian princess to afford medicine. Shunned by her Hopi kin for selling their sacred dances and scorned by white townsfolk, Tala's heart aches under the strain. Her quiet love for Daniel, a white stage director, stirs hope but draws ire from both communities, leaving her torn between saving her daughter, preserving her culture, and daring to dream of a life beyond shame. The morning sun barely warmed Tala's small adobe home when Leonard Marsh's heavy boots thudded against the dirt floor, his voice slicing through the quiet. "Sell your dance, Tala, or lose everything," he spat, his eyes cold as he loomed over her and Winyan. Tala stood frozen, her hands still guiding Winyan's trembling fingers through the sacred Hopi dance steps she taught her since she was a toddler. Marsh sneered at Winyan, calling her a useless brat, his words like knives in Tala's heart. She stepped in front of her daughter, her voice steady but burning. "This dance is our soul. You can't take it." Marsh laughed, threatening to fire her and call the sheriff if she defied him. Winyan clung to Tala's skirt, her wide eyes filled with fear. Daniel, lingering at the doorway, tried to reason with Marsh, but the man's glare silenced him. As Marsh turned to leave, his mocking grin lingered, a promise of trouble. Tala's chest tightened, torn between her people's traditions and the medicine Winyan desperately needed. She knelt beside her daughter, whispering, "We'll be okay," though doubt gnawed at her heart. Winyan's coughs erupted, sharp and ragged, as Marsh's shove sent her crashing to the floor. Tala's heart lurched, and she dropped to her knees, cradling her daughter's frail body. Winyan's face paled, her breath shallow, each gasp a reminder of the lung disease stealing her strength. Tala's hand shook as she smoothed Winyan's hair, whispering, "Breathe, my love. Just breathe." Daniel rushed to help, lifting Winyan gently onto the woven blanket on their cot. Tala fumbled for the medicine bottle, her stomach sinking when she saw only a few drops left. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as Winyan's cough slowed but didn't stop. Daniel's eyes met Tala's, filled with guilt for not stopping Marsh. "I'll get more medicine," he promised, but Tala barely heard him, her mind racing with fear. She pressed her forehead to Winyan's, feeling the heat of her fever. "You're stronger than this," she murmured, though her voice cracked. The weight of Marsh's threat lingered, a shadow over the fragile. Fury boiled in Tala's chest as Marsh's final taunt echoed. "Your kind doesn't belong here," he sneered, pointing at Winyan's trembling form. Tala's vision blurred with rage, her hands clenching until they ached. She spotted a wooden dance prop on the table, its carved patterns a symbol of her people's stories. Without thinking, she grabbed it and hurled it at Marsh, the wood grazing his shoulder. He yelped, blood seeping through his shirt, his face twisting in shock and anger. "You'll rot in jail for this," he roared, clutching his wound. Tala stood tall, her heart pounding, regret and defiance warring within her. Daniel lunged forward, pulling Marsh toward the door, pleading with him not to call the sheriff. Marsh shoved Daniel aside, storming out with a vow to ruin Tala. The room fell silent, save for Winyan's soft whimpers. Tala sank to the floor, her hands trembling as she realized the cost of her anger. She'd struck a white man, and the law would not be kind. Winyan reached for her hand, her touch a fragile anchor in the storm of Tala's fear. Daniel's arms wrapped around Tala as the door slammed shut behind Marsh, his warmth a fleeting comfort against her rising panic. "You need to run," he urged, his voice low, eyes searching hers. Tala shook her head, glancing at Winyan, who lay pale on the cot. "I can't leave her," she whispered, her throat tight with fear. Daniel knelt beside her, his hand gentle on her shoulder. "I'll find a way to fix this," he promised, though doubt flickered in his gaze. Tala's mind churned, replaying the scorn of her Hopi elders, who called her a traitor for dancing in the white man's theater. She confessed her pain to Daniel, her voice breaking. "They hate me, and now this." Daniel's jaw tightened, his own frustration with Marsh spilling out. "He's a bully, Tala. We'll fight him." Their eyes locked, a spark of something deeper passing between them. But fear for Winyan drowned it. Tala pulled Winyan close, her daughter's shallow breaths a reminder of the stakes. The world outside felt like a trap closing in, and Tala's heart ached with the weight of her choices. Tala carried Winyan's fragile weight in her arms, the dusty path to the town doctor stretching endlessly under the midday sun. Her heart pounded as she stepped into the cramped office, the doctor's cold eyes narrowing at the sight of a Hopi woman. He examined Winyan, his fingers rough, and declared her lungs weaker than ever. "She needs expensive medicine," he said, his tone flat, offering no hope. Tala's voice trembled as she begged to pay later, but the doctor scoffed. "Your kind never pays." Winyan's small hand squeezed Tala's, her brave smile breaking Tala's heart. "I'm okay, Mama," she whispered, though her coughs betrayed her. Tala's chest ached, the weight of her empty pockets crushing her. She thanked the doctor, her voice hollow, and stepped back into the harsh light, Winyan clinging to her side. Each step home felt heavier, the doctor's words echoing, "Without medicine, Winyan wouldn't last." Tala's mind flickered to Marsh's offer, the thought of twisting her sacred dance for his profit like poison in her veins. She hugged Winyan tighter, vowing to find another way, though hope felt impossibly far. The Hopi village buzzed with evening chatter, but the elders' eyes turned cold as Tala approached their council fire. She stood tall, her voice steady as she asked for help to save Winyan. The head elder, his face lined with years, cut her off. "You shame us, dancing for white men," he said, his words sharp as flint. Tala's heart sank, but she pleaded, explaining she danced to buy medicine. Another elder waved her away, calling her a seller of sacred things. The fire's glow cast long shadows, mirroring the isolation Tala felt. She remembered nights dancing under these same stars, her people cheering her grace, now replaced by scorn. "Winyan is one of us," she said, her voice cracking, but the elders turned their backs. Tala walked away, the weight of their rejection pressing on her chest. She glanced at the desert sky, whispering a prayer for strength, but the silence felt like another betrayal. Her love for her people burned, yet their judgment left her standing alone, a mother with nowhere to turn. Nika's knock was soft, but her embrace was fierce as she stepped into Tala's home, her dark eyes warm with loyalty. "You're stronger than they know," she said, sitting beside Tala as Winyan slept. Tala's shoulders slumped, the day's wounds raw, and she poured out her fear for Winyan's life. Nika listened, her jaw tight, then leaned forward, her voice low. "I've heard whispers about Marsh. He's hiding something." Tala's pulse quickened, a spark of hope igniting. Nika suggested digging into Marsh's dealings, her determination infectious. "We'll fight this together," she promised, squeezing Tala's hand. Tala managed a small smile, the first in days, grateful for her friend's unwavering support. As Nika left, she glanced at Winyan, her expression softening. "She's a fighter, Like you. Tala sat by her daughter's side, stroking her hair, the flicker of a plan forming in her mind. Nika's words echoed, a lifeline in the darkness, and Tala clung to the belief that she could protect both her daughter and her people's soul. The sheriff's boots crunched outside Tala's door at dawn, their knocks like thunder in her chest. "Open up, Tala! You're wanted for assault!" one shouted, his voice hard. Tala's heart raced as she pulled Winyan close, shielding her from the threat. The door rattled under their fists, and Tala's mind spun, picturing Winyan alone if she were arrested. Daniel appeared, his face pale but firm, and stepped outside to face the men. "She's no criminal," he argued, his voice steady, convincing them to leave for now. The sheriff grunted, warning Tala her time was short. As they retreated, Tala's knees buckled, fear choking her. She hugged Winyan, whose small voice asked, "Will they take you, Mama?" Tala forced a smile, lying to ease her daughter's worry. Daniel stayed, his presence a quiet strength, and promised to find a lawyer. But Tala's thoughts darkened, the law's weight heavier than ever. She looked at Winyan's fragile form, knowing Marsh's power could crush them. Her resolve hardened, a mother's love stronger than fear, but the path ahead loomed like a desert storm. Tala sat by Winyan's cot, the moonlight casting shadows on her daughter's pale face, her heart torn by the empty medicine bottle. She thought of Marsh's sneering offer, the money it could bring, and her stomach twisted. With a heavy sigh, she rose, pulling the garish Indian princess costume from a trunk, its beads mocking her pride. She slipped it on, each button a betrayal of the dances her ancestors taught her. Daniel watched from the doorway, his eyes pained. "You don't have to do this," he said, but Tala shook her head, thinking of Winyan's coughs. "It's for her," she whispered, her voice hollow. Winyan stirred, her sleepy gaze landing on the costume. "Why do you look sad, Mama?" she asked, her innocence piercing Tala's heart. Tala knelt, kissing her forehead, unable to speak the truth. As she left for the theater, the desert wind felt colder, carrying her shame. She vowed this would be temporary, but the weight of her choice pressed down, a wound deeper than any elder's scorn. Winyan's small hands tugged at Tala's skirt as she adjusted the costume, her eyes wide with questions. "Is that for the dance?" she asked, her voice soft but curious. Tala forced a smile, kneeling to meet her daughter's gaze. "Just a job, my love," she lied, the words bitter on her tongue. Winyan frowned, sensing the heaviness in her mother's touch. Later, when Tala thought Winyan slept, she sank onto a chair, tears spilling as she whispered, "I'm sorry," to the empty room. Winyan, awake, heard the soft sobs and crept closer, her heart aching for her mother's pain. She didn't understand Marsh or the theater, but she knew Tala was fighting for her. The next morning, Winyan hugged Tala tightly, her small voice firm. "You're the best, Mama." Tala's throat tightened, guilt and love warring within her. She saw the spark in Winyan's eyes, a quiet strength, and feared her daughter would uncover the truth. Tala held her close, praying she could shield Winyan from the cost of her sacrifices, even as her resolve wavered under the weight of her lies. The theater's dim lights cast long shadows as Daniel lingered backstage, his ears straining to catch Leonard Marsh's low, venomous words. "Those Hopi rituals will fetch a fortune on film," Marsh muttered to a shadowy figure, unaware of Daniel's presence. Heart pounding, Daniel scribbled the words on a scrap of paper, his hands trembling with disgust. He slipped out, the night air sharp against his skin, and hurried to Tala's home. Finding her by Winyan's cot, he whispered the secret, his voice tight. "Marsh is stealing your sacred dances." Tala's eyes widened, her chest tightening with betrayal, the weight of her people's trust crushing her. She clutched Winyan's hand, her daughter's soft breathing a fragile anchor. "We have to stop him," she said, her voice a mix of fear and resolve. Daniel nodded, suggesting they search Marsh's office for proof. Tala's mind raced, torn between protecting Winyan and defending her heritage. As Daniel left, he squeezed her shoulder, his touch a quiet promise. Tala stared into the darkness, the spark of defiance growing, knowing this fight could cost everything she loved. Moonlight spilled through the theater's cracked window as Tala crept into Marsh's office, her heart thumping like a drum. The air smelled of stale cigars and ink, and papers cluttered the desk. She rifled through them, her fingers brushing a hidden folder. Inside, she found contracts promising Hopi ritual films to a man named Carter, each word a stab to her soul. A small reel of film lay tucked beneath, labeled Hopi Ceremonies. Tala's breath caught, her hands shaking as she imagined her people's sacred dances sold for profit. She stuffed the reel and papers into her shawl, her resolve hardening. Footsteps echoed outside and she froze, crouching behind the desk. The door creaked but no one entered, and Tala exhaled, her pulse racing. She slipped out, the desert night swallowing her footsteps. Back home, she hid the evidence under a floorboard, her mind reeling with the scale of Marsh's betrayal. Winyan stirred, murmuring in her sleep, and Tala's heart ached. She vowed to expose Marsh, but fear gnawed at her, the risk to Winyan looming like a storm cloud. Wade's boots scuffed the theater's back alley as Tala darted from Marsh's office, her shawl clutched tight around the stolen evidence. "Who's there?" he growled, his lantern swinging, casting wild shadows. Tala's heart leaped to her throat, and she ducked behind a stack of crates, the film reel pressing sharp against her chest. Wade's heavy steps drew closer, his breath rasping as he scanned the darkness. She held her breath, praying Winyan's face would not be her last thought if caught. The lantern's light grazed the crates, missing her by inches, and Wade muttered a curse, stomping away. Tala waited, her body trembling, before slipping into the night, her legs weak but driven by desperation. At home, she collapsed by Winyan's cot, the reel a heavy secret in her hands. She imagined Marsh's wrath if he learned of her theft, and fear clawed at her. Winyan's soft snores grounded her, a reminder of why she risked everything. Tala hid the evidence deeper, her resolve steeling. She whispered a Hopi prayer, begging for strength, knowing Wade's suspicion could unravel her fragile plan. Nika's eyes blazed with anger as Tala revealed the stolen contracts and film reel, the adobe walls of her home closing in under the weight of the truth. "He's stealing our spirit," Nika hissed, pacing the small room. Tala nodded, her voice low as she described Marsh's plan to sell Hopi rituals. Winyan slept nearby, her frail form a constant ache in Tala's heart. Nika suggested sending the evidence to a federal reporter, her voice fierce with hope. "We can ruin him," she said, gripping Tala's hand. Tala hesitated, picturing Wade's cruel face and Marsh's power to hurt Winyan. "If they find out, she's not safe," Tala whispered, her eyes glistening. Nika softened, promising to watch over Winyan if trouble came. The women sat in silence, the flicker of a candle casting their shadows tall. Tala felt a spark of courage, fueled by Nika's loyalty, but fear lingered like smoke. She tucked the reel away, her mind racing with plans, each step a gamble with her daughter's life. Nika left with a determined nod, and Tala prayed their bond would be enough to face the storm ahead. A folded paper lay on Tala's doorstep at dawn, its edges worn, marked with the words, "Night Dancer." Her pulse quickened as she read the cryptic note, directing her to a hidden cache of Marsh's documents in an old barn. The name stirred memories of Hopi legends, a masked figure who guarded their secrets. She glanced at Winyan, still asleep, and tucked the note away, her heart a mix of hope and unease. Outside, a shadow flickered across the desert, gone before Tala could follow. She wondered if this night dancer was friend or trap, her trust worn thin by betrayal. Winyan stirred, her cough soft but piercing, and Tala's resolve hardened. She hid the note in her shawl, vowing to follow its lead, but not alone. Daniel's face flashed in her mind, his quiet strength a beacon. Tala kissed Winyan's forehead, whispering, "I'll keep you safe." The note's promise dangled like a fragile thread, offering a chance to expose Marsh. But the desert silence warned of dangers unseen, and Tala's heart trembled with the weight of her next step. Marsh's office was a cage of dark wood as he summoned Daniel, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. "You're too close to that Hopi woman," he growled, leaning across the desk. Daniel's stomach twisted, but he kept his face calm, denying any betrayal. Wade loomed nearby, cracking his knuckles, his glare promising pain. Marsh leaned back, warning Daniel that disloyalty would cost him his job and more. "I'm watching you," he said, his voice cold as stone. Daniel nodded, his heart racing, and left, feeling Wade's eyes boring into his back. He hurried to Tala's, the desert wind sharp against his face, and found her by Winyan's side. "Marsh suspects me," he admitted, his voice low, fear creeping in. Tala's hand tightened on his, her own dread mirroring his. "We're in this together," she said, her eyes fierce. Daniel felt a surge of courage, vowing to protect her, though the threat of Wade's fists lingered. He left with a promise to watch the theater, his love for Tala, a quiet fire, burning against the growing darkness of Marsh's power. The courthouse steps loomed like a mountain as Tala faced Judge Harlan, his gavel a threat in the stifling room. "You attacked a white man," he declared, his voice dripping with contempt. Tala stood tall, her heart pounding, and denied the charge, explaining Marsh's cruelty. Harlan smirked, warning she'd lose Winyan if she didn't comply. "Cooperate or face prison," he said, his eyes cold. Tala's knees weakened, the thought of her daughter alone tearing at her. She left the courthouse, the sun blinding, her mind a storm of fear and defiance. At home, she hugged Winyan, hiding her trembling hands. "No one will take me," she promised, though Harlan's words echoed like a curse. Daniel arrived, his face grim, and shared his own encounter with Marsh. Tala felt the walls closing in, the law and Marsh's power a noose around her neck. She clutched the night dancer's note, its promise her only light, but the weight of Harlan's threat pressed heavy, and Tala prayed her courage would hold against the gathering storm. Winyan's small hands fumbled with Tala's shawl, pulling out the night dancer's note as Tala slept. Her eyes, bright despite her weakness, scanned the cryptic words, sensing her mother's secret fight. She tucked the note back, her heart heavy with worry, and crept to the window, searching the desert for the masked figure. Winyan whispered a Hopi prayer, her voice soft, asking for her mother's safety. When Tala woke, Winyan's quiet stare unnerved her, as if her daughter saw through her lies. "Are you in trouble, Mama?" Winyan asked, her voice trembling. Tala forced a smile, brushing Winyan's hair. "Just grown-up worries," she said, her throat tight. Winyan nodded, but her eyes held a spark of determination, a silent vow to help. Tala's heart ached, fearing Winyan's fragile strength would pull her into danger. She kissed her daughter's forehead, the note's weight burning in her mind, and resolved to keep Winyan safe, even as the night dancer's call drew her deeper into the fight. Nika's scream echoed through the dusk as Wade ambushed her on a lonely path, his fists raised with malice. "Tell me what Tala knows," he snarled, striking her shoulder. Nika stumbled, pain searing, but spat in defiance, refusing to betray her friend. Wade's eyes glinted with cruelty, his next blow knocking her to the ground. A passerby's shout startled him, and Wade fled, cursing under his breath. Nika dragged herself to a neighbor's home, blood trickling from her lip, and sent a message to Tala. At Tala's house, the note arrived, and Tala's heart sank, guilt flooding her. "This is my fault," she whispered, tears falling as she pictured Nika's pain. Winyan overheard, her small hand gripping Tala's. "Is Nika okay?" she asked, her voice small. Tala nodded, lying to ease her fear, but her resolve hardened. She bandaged her own heart, vowing to protect Nika and expose Marsh. The desert night felt heavier. Wade's threat a shadow over her home, but Tala's anger burned brighter, a mother's love fueling her fight. Tala and Daniel huddled in the dim light of her home, the film reel and contracts hidden beneath the floor. "We send this to a reporter," Daniel urged, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. Tala nodded, her hands trembling as she pictured Winyan's frail form. "It's our only chance," she said, her voice a mix of hope and dread. Daniel shared the name of a federal journalist, a man known for exposing corruption. They planned to mail the evidence at dawn, each word a step toward justice. Tala's heart raced, imagining Marsh's wrath if they failed. Winyan stirred, her coughs piercing the quiet, and Tala knelt beside her, whispering, "We'll be free soon." Daniel's hand rested on her shoulder, his touch a silent vow. They sealed the evidence in a worn envelope, the weight of their secret heavy. Tala looked at Daniel, her fear mirrored in his eyes, but their shared resolve burned like a desert flame. The night stretched on, each creak of the house a reminder of the danger closing in, and Tala prayed their plan would save her daughter and her people. The theater buzzed with restless energy as Tala stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding like a war drum. Marsh's voice barked from the wings, demanding she perform the mocked Indian princess dance. Tala's hands trembled, clutching her shawl, the stolen film reel's weight burning in her mind. She froze, her eyes sweeping the crowd, then spoke, her voice clear and fierce. "Marsh steals our sacred dances for profit," the audience gasped, whispers erupting like wildfire. Marsh stormed forward, his face red with rage, shouting for guards to seize her. Daniel pushed through the crowd, standing by her side, his presence a shield. Tala's chest tightened, fear for Winyan clashing with her defiance. A woman in the audience shouted support, emboldening Tala. Marsh's guards hesitated, sensing the crowd's shift. Tala raised her chin, her voice ringing. "Our dances are not for sale." The theater roared with tension, and Tala felt the spark of rebellion ignite. But Marsh's glare promised vengeance, and her heart sank, knowing Winyan's safety hung in the balance. Wade's rough hands yanked Daniel into the theater's dark backstage, the air thick with dust and menace. "Tell me where the film is," Wade snarled, tying Daniel's wrists with coarse rope. Daniel's jaw clenched, his eyes defiant, refusing to betray Tala. Wade's fist slammed into Daniel's cheek, blood trickling from his lip, pain flashing white-hot. Tala's voice echoed faintly from the stage, fueling Daniel's resolve. Wade leaned close, his breath sour, threatening to hunt Winyan next. Daniel's heart raced, picturing Tala's frail daughter, and he spat, "You'll get nothing." Wade raised his fist again, but a distant shout from the theater stalled him. Daniel's thoughts churned, guilt gnawing for dragging Tala into this danger. He tugged at the ropes, his wrists raw, desperate to warn her. The backstage shadows loomed, each creak a threat, and Daniel prayed Tala's courage would hold. Wade smirked, leaving him bound, promising to return. Daniel's chest heaved, his love for Tala afire against the fear, vowing to break free before Wade's threats reached her. A cloaked figure slipped through the backstage shadows, the night dancer's mask glinting under a sliver of moonlight. Daniel's breath caught as the figure cut his ropes with a swift knife, whispering, "Run to Tala." The night dancer dropped a crumpled note, pointing to a barn where Marsh hid more secrets. Daniel rubbed his wrists, staring at the masked Hopi, his voice a hushed thanks. The figure vanished, leaving only the note's weight in Daniel's hand. He sprinted to the stage, finding Tala amid the crowd's chaos, her eyes wide with fear. "The night dancer freed me," he gasped, pressing the note into her hand. Tala's heart leaped. The mysterious ally, a spark of hope, but Wade's absence chilled her. She clutched Daniel's arm, her voice trembling. Winyan's alone. The crowd's murmurs faded as they slipped away, the note's promise urging them forward. Daniel's bruised face ached, but his resolve burned, vowing to protect Tala. The night swallowed them, the barn's secrets a beacon, but fear for Winyan gnawed at Tala's heart, each step a gamble against time. Tala and Daniel crept toward the old barn under starlight, the night dancer's note clutched tight in her hand. The desert wind howled, carrying the scent of dry sage as they pushed open the creaking door. Inside, crates overflowed with papers, contracts detailing Marsh's plan to sell Hopi rituals. Tala's fingers shook as she snapped photographs with a borrowed camera, each click a step toward justice. Daniel kept watch, his eyes scanning the darkness, his heart pounding at every rustle. A hidden ledger revealed payments to Carter, the truth a knife in Tala's chest. She whispered, "They're stealing our soul." As they gathered evidence, a distant engine roared, headlights piercing the night. Tala stuffed the photos into her shawl, her pulse racing, and they fled through a back exit. The barn's shadows loomed, a reminder of Marsh's reach. At home, Tala hid the photos with the reel, her hands trembling as she kissed Winyan's sleeping face. Daniel's touch steadied her, but fear clung like dust, the approaching headlights a warning that their fight was far from over. Flames licked the barn's walls as Carter's men torched it, the night sky glowing red with destruction. Tala and Daniel watched from a dune, their breaths shallow, the photographs safe but the barn's secrets burning. Tala's heart sank, each crackle of fire erasing proof of Marsh's crimes. "We're too late," she whispered, tears stinging her eyes. Daniel gripped her hand, his voice firm. "We have enough." The reel, the photos, the heat stung their faces, and Tala pictured Winyan's frail form, her resolve wavering under grief. Carter's men laughed, their shadows dancing in the blaze, unaware of Tala's evidence. She clutched the shawl, the photos a fragile hope against the inferno. Daniel pulled her back, urging her to run before Carter's men spotted them. They stumbled through the desert, the fire's roar fading, but Tala's despair lingered. At home, she knelt by Winyan, her daughter's soft breaths, a lifeline. "I won't let them win," she vowed, her voice breaking. The night pressed heavy, Carter's power a looming threat, but Tala's anger burned brighter, fueled by love for her daughter and her people. Winyan's coughs woke Tala at dawn, each rasp a dagger in her heart. She held her daughter close, smoothing her hair, whispering, "You're my strength." Winyan's eyes, dull with fever, met hers, and she murmured, "Don't give up, Mama." Tala's throat tightened, tears falling as she saw Winyan's quiet courage. She told her about the barn, her voice soft, leaving out the danger. Winyan squeezed her hand, her small voice firm. "Our dances matter." Tala's heart ached, knowing Winyan sensed her fight. She tucked her daughter in, the room's silence heavy with love and fear. Daniel arrived, his face grim, and shared news of Carter's men hunting them. Tala's resolve hardened, Winyan's words echoing in her mind. She kissed her daughter's forehead, promising to keep fighting. The desert sun rose, its light harsh, and Tala felt the weight of her choices. Winyan's frail hand in hers was a reminder of why she couldn't stop, even as fear whispered she might lose everything. The Hopi village glowed with torchlight, as Tala stood before the elders, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "Marsh steals our sacred dances," she said, revealing his plan to sell their rituals. The elders' faces hardened, some scoffing, but others leaned forward listening. Tala's heart raced, pleading for their trust, her words a prayer for Winyan and her people. A young Hopi man nodded, his eyes fierce, sparking hope in Tala's chest. She spoke of the film reel, her voice rising, urging unity. The head elder frowned, unconvinced, but promised to consider her words. Tala left the circle, the fire's warmth fading, her hope fragile but alive. Winyan's face flashed in her mind, her daughter's courage pushing her forward. Daniel waited outside, his nod a silent support. The village whispered with debate, and Tala felt a shift, a chance her people might stand with her. She clutched her shawl. The hidden photos a secret weapon, but the elder's doubt lingered, a shadow over her heart, urging her to prove her loyalty. Harlan's voice boomed across the Hopi ceremony, his badge gleaming as he led deputies through the crowd. "Tala's a troublemaker," he shouted, accusing her of inciting chaos. The drums stopped, and elders glared, their trust wavering. Tala's heart pounded as she shielded Winyan, who clung to her trembling. A deputy shoved a young Hopi, sparking shouts, and Winyan stumbled in the chaos, her coughs sharp. Tala caught her, panic rising as blood flecked Winyan's lips. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice breaking. Harlan smirked, ordering his men to disperse the crowd, his words a blade to Tala's hope. She carried Winyan away, the ceremony in ruins, her people's eyes heavy with doubt. Daniel followed, his face pale, cursing Harlan's cruelty. Tala's tears fell as she held Winyan, the weight of failure crushing her. The desert night swallowed their retreat, Harlan's laughter echoing, and Tala prayed her daughter's strength would hold, her resolve a flickering flame against the storm of injustice closing in. Tala cradled Winyan in their small home, the lamplight soft on her daughter's pale face. She spooned the last drops of medicine into Winyan's mouth, her hands shaking as coughs racked her small body. Winyan's eyes fluttered, her breath shallow, and Tala whispered, "You are my heart," her voice thick with tears. She tucked a blanket around her, each cough a reminder of time slipping away. Daniel arrived, his face drawn, carrying a small vial of medicine scavenged from town. "It's not enough," he admitted, his voice heavy with guilt. Tala nodded, her chest tight, and kissed Winyan's forehead, praying for a miracle. The room felt small, the walls pressing in with fear. Winyan murmured, "I love you, Mama." Her voice faint but fierce. Tala's tears fell, her heart breaking under the weight of her daughter's courage. She held Winyan's hand, vowing to fight on, though despair clawed at her. The night stretched endless, each creak of the house a threat, and Tala's love for Winyan burned brighter, a beacon against the darkness threatening to steal her away. Daniel slipped into the post office at dawn, the envelope of evidence heavy in his hands. He scrawled the federal reporter's address, his fingers trembling, knowing Marsh's men could be watching. The clerk eyed him, suspicious, but took the package, promising delivery. Daniel's heart raced as he left, the desert sun harsh, and hurried to Tala's home. He found her by Winyan's cot, her eyes red from crying, and shared the news. "The reporter will investigate," he said, his voice a spark of hope. Tala's breath caught, relief mingling with fear of Marsh's retaliation. Winyan stirred, her cough softer but persistent, and Tala whispered, "We're close, my love." Daniel knelt beside her, his hand on hers, their shared resolve a quiet strength. The envelope's journey felt like a lifeline, but Tala's mind churned with images of Wade's fists. She looked at Winyan, her daughter's frail form a reminder of the stakes. The morning light crept through the window, fragile and fleeting, and Tala prayed the reporter's help would come before Marsh's wrath found them. Wade's fists pounded Tala's door at midnight, his voice a guttural snarl. "Give me the film, or the girl dies." Tala's heart stopped, her arms wrapping tightly around Winyan, who whimpered in her sleep. She pressed a finger to her lips, signaling silence, as Wade's boots scraped the porch. Daniel grabbed a wooden club, his eyes fierce, and crept to the window, ready to fight. Tala's pulse thundered, picturing Winyan's frail body in Wade's hands. She whispered a Hopi prayer, her voice trembling, begging for protection. Daniel swung the door open, brandishing the club, and Wade stumbled back, cursing, his eyes glinting with malice. "This isn't over," he spat, vanishing into the desert night. Tala sank to the floor, tears streaming as she held Winyan close, her daughter's soft breaths a fragile shield. Daniel knelt beside her, his hand steadying her shaking shoulders. "We'll keep her safe," he vowed, though fear lingered in his gaze. Tala's resolve hardened, Marsh's threat a fire in her chest. She clutched the hidden reel, knowing the fight was now a battle for survival, and prayed her courage would outlast the darkness. The night dancer's note fluttered to Tala's doorstep at dawn, its ink bold with a new lead, a witness, a former Hopi dancer hiding in a canyon shack. Tala's heart raced as she read, the masked figure's aid a lifeline in her despair. She tucked the note away, glancing at Winyan, whose coughs pierced the quiet morning. Daniel arrived, his face bruised from Wade's attack, and Tala shared the note, her voice a mix of hope and dread. They trekked to the canyon, the desert sun searing, and found the shack, its door ajar. Inside, a weathered man named Lonan confirmed Carter's exploitation, his eyes haunted. "They forced me to perform, then discarded me," he said, his voice raw. Tala's throat tightened, seeing her own fears in his story. Lonan agreed to testify, his courage sparking hers. They left with his written account, the paper heavy with truth. Tala's heart lifted, but Wade's threat echoed, chilling her. She gripped Daniel's hand, their shared resolve a quiet strength, and vowed to protect Winyan, the witness's words, a weapon against Marsh's empire. Tala and Daniel sat by lamplight, plotting their final stand at Marsh's grand theater performance. "We expose him to the world," Tala said, her voice steady, the reel and photos hidden nearby. Daniel nodded, suggesting they rally the crowd with Lonan's testimony. Tala's hands trembled, picturing Winyan alone, her coughs worsening. They drafted a speech, each word a defiance of Marsh's greed. Tala's heart pounding with purpose. Nika sent word of her recovery, promising to join with handmade signs. Tala's chest warmed at her friend's loyalty, but fear of Harlan's deputies gnawed at her. Daniel sketched a plan to slip Lonan into the theater, his eyes fierce with determination. Winyan stirred, her small voice asking, "Will you win, Mama?" Tala kissed her forehead, whispering, "For you, I will." The room felt small, the weight of their plan heavy, but Tala's love for her daughter burned bright. They packed the evidence, the night thick with tension, and Tala prayed their voices would echo louder than Marsh's power, her resolve aflame against the gathering storm. Nika limped into Tala's home, her shoulder bandaged but her eyes blazing with defiance. "I'm with you," she said, clutching signs painted with bold words. "Stop stealing our dances." Tala hugged her, tears welling, guilt for Nika's pain mixing with gratitude. Nika recounted Wade's attack, her voice steady, refusing to let fear win. "We'll show them," she vowed, helping Tala rehearse her speech. Winyan watched, her frail hands clapping softly, her smile a spark in Tala's heart. Nika knelt beside her, promising, "Your mama's a hero." Tala's throat tightened, fear for Winyan's safety, clashing with pride. They planned to meet Lonan at the theater, Nika's strength a pillar for Tala's wavering courage. As Nika left, she squeezed Tala's hand, her eyes fierce. "We're stronger than they know." Tala tucked Winyan in, the signs leaning against the wall, their message, a beacon. The desert night hummed, the coming battle looming, and Tala's heart raced, her love for her people and her daughter, a fire that refused to fade, even as danger closed in. The theater swelled with anticipation as Tala climbed the stage, her voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade. "Leonard Marsh steals our sacred Hopi dances," she declared, holding up the film reel. The crowd gasped, eyes wide, as she revealed Carter's contracts, her words a thunderclap. Nika stood below, raising her signs, her shout rallying the audience. Daniel guarded the wings, his eyes scanning for Wade's shadow. Marsh lunged forward, his face purple, roaring, "Lies! Seize her!" Lonan stepped beside Tala, his voice steady, recounting Carter's exploitation. The audience roared, some cheering, others jeering, the air electric with tension. Tala's heart pounded, Winyan's face in her mind, fueling her courage. A reporter scribbled furiously, his camera flashing, capturing the truth. Marsh's guards hesitated, the crowd's anger a wall against them. Tala's voice rose, unbroken, demanding justice. The theater shook with voices, a tide turning against Marsh, but his venomous glare chilled Tala, her triumph tempered by fear for Winyan, left alone in the night. The night dancer emerged from the theater's shadows, his mask gleaming as he joined Tala on stage. He tore it off, revealing Lonan's weathered face, a former Hopi dancer broken by Carter's greed. "I was their pawn," he said, his voice raw, exposing Marsh's deals. The crowd fell silent, his pain a mirror to Tala's fight. Tala's heart swelled, the night dancer's truth a sword against their enemies. A second witness, a young Hopi woman, stepped forward, her testimony echoing Lonan's, sealing Marsh's guilt. Nika cheered, her signs high, the audience erupting in support. Tala gripped Lonan's hand, tears in her eyes, his courage a gift. Marsh's face twisted, his shouts drowned by the crowd's roar. Daniel stood close, his presence steadying Tala's trembling legs. The reporter's pen flew, the truth spreading like wildfire. Tala's voice faltered. Winyan's absence a weight, but Lonan's nod urged her on. The stage felt alive, justice within reach. Yet Marsh's glare promised retaliation, and Tala's heart raced, knowing the fight had reached its peak, with Winyan's life hanging in the balance. Marsh bolted for the theater's back exit, his coat flapping as he shoved through the crowd. "She's a liar!" he screamed, his voice desperate. But the audience blocked his path, their shouts demanding justice. Daniel sprinted after him, his bruised face set with determination, Nika at his side, her signs swinging. Tala stayed on stage, her heart pounding, urging the crowd to hold Marsh accountable. Deputies arrived, their badges glinting, and cuffed Marsh, his curses echoing as they dragged him away. The reporter snapped photos, his camera a beacon of truth. Tala's chest heaved, relief mixing with dread, Winyan's frail form haunting her thoughts. Lonan stood by her, his eyes fierce, a silent vow to see this through. The crowd's cheers shook the theater, a tide against Marsh's power. But Tala's hands trembled, fear for her daughter lingering. Daniel returned, his nod confirming Marsh's arrest, but his grim face warned of Carter's reach. Tala clutched the reel, the victory bittersweet, her heart aching for Winyan, alone and vulnerable in the night shadow. Harlan stormed onto the stage, his voice booming over the crowd. "Tala's a criminal," he bellowed, accusing her of fabricating lies. Tala faced him, her heart racing, and countered, "You're Marsh's puppet." Lonan's witness, the young Hopi woman, spoke, revealing Harlan's bribes from Carter. The crowd gasped, their anger turning on Harlan, shouts drowning his defense. Tala's hands shook, Winyan's coughs echoing in her mind, fueling her defiance. Harlan's face reddened, his authority crumbling as the reporter scribbled, his pen a weapon. Daniel stood close, his eyes fierce, ready to shield Tala. The deputies hesitated, sensing the crowd's fury, and Harlan retreated, his threats empty. Tala's voice rose, demanding justice, her heart a mix of triumph and fear. The theater pulsed with energy, the truth tearing down Harlan's lies. But Tala's thoughts raced to Winyan, her daughter's fragility a constant ache. She gripped Lonan's arm, his nod a spark of hope, but Harlan's parting glare chilled her, a reminder that the fight was not yet won. The reporter's article hit the presses, its headline screaming Marsh and Carter's crimes. Tala read it at dawn, her hands trembling, the words detailing Carter's illegal film deals and Lonan's testimony. Crowds gathered in town, demanding Carter's arrest, their voices a chorus of justice. Tala's heart lifted, the truth a light in her darkness. But Winyan's coughs grounded her. She showed Daniel the paper, his smile weary but hopeful. "We did it," he said, his hand on hers, though Carter's freedom gnawed at them. The reporter arrived, promising federal agents would act, his eyes bright with purpose. Tala's chest tightened, picturing Winyan's frail form, her victory incomplete without her daughter's health. Nika joined them, her signs now banners of triumph, her laugh a spark of joy. Tala hugged her, tears falling, the weight of their fight shared. The desert sun rose, its light warm, and Tala felt the tide turning, but Winyan's absence loomed, a shadow over her heart, urging her to hurry home to her daughter's side. Winyan's coughs grew sharper, her small body shaking in Tala's arms as they reached the doctor's office. The doctor's face fell, his voice grim. "Her lungs are failing." Tala's heart shattered, tears streaming as she held Winyan close, whispering, "Stay with me, my love." Winyan's eyes, weak but bright, met hers, her small hand squeezing Tala's. "I'm proud of you, Mama," she murmured, her voice a faint thread. Tala sobbed, the doctor's words a knife. Without more medicine, Winyan wouldn't survive. Daniel arrived, his face pale, carrying a small vial, all he could find. "We'll get more," he vowed, his voice breaking. Tala nodded, her chest tight, and fed Winyan the medicine, praying for time. The office's walls closed in, the air heavy with despair. Winyan smiled, her courage a light in Tala's darkness, and Tala clung to her, her love a shield against the inevitable. The desert outside hummed, life moving on, but Tala's world narrowed to her daughter's fading breath, each moment a battle to hold on. Daniel sat beside Tala in the dim hospital room, the sterile air heavy with Winyan's shallow breaths. His hand clasped hers, his voice soft but firm. "I'm here, Tala, always." Tala's eyes, red from tears, met his, and she leaned into his touch, her heart aching with love and fear. Winyan stirred, her coughs weaker, her small face pale against the pillow. Daniel confessed his love, his words a quiet vow. "I've loved you since the first dance I saw." Tala's throat tightened, a flicker of warmth piercing her despair. She whispered, "You're my strength," her voice breaking as Winyan's hand twitched in hers. The doctor entered, his face grim. Warning time was short. Tala's chest constricted, but Daniel's steady gaze anchored her. He promised to stay through the night, his bruised hands gentle as he tucked Winyan's blanket. The room's silence pressed down, broken only by Winyan's faint breaths, and Tala clung to Daniel's love, a fragile light in the darkness. She kissed Winyan's forehead, praying for one more day, her heart torn between hope and the unbearable truth that her daughter was slipping away. The Hopi village glowed with dawn's light as elders gathered at the hospital. their faces soft with regret. The head elder clasped Tala's hands, his voice low. "We were wrong to judge you." They praised her fight to save their dances, calling her a guardian of their soul. Tala's eyes welled, the weight of their rejection lifting, replaced by pride. An elder offered a woven blanket, a symbol of unity, draping it over Winyan's bed. Winyan's lips curved in a faint smile, her eyes bright despite her frailty. Tala's heart swelled, whispering, "They see us, my love." The elders invited her to dance again, their voices warm with respect. Daniel stood nearby, his nod a silent support, his presence a bridge between worlds. Tala felt her people's embrace, a homecoming after years of exile. The hospital room felt less cold, the blanket's colors vivid, but Winyan's coughs echoed, grounding Tala's joy. She held her daughter's hand, the elder's words a spark of hope, yet fear lingered, a shadow over her heart, knowing Winyan's time was fading fast. Winyan's final breath came at dusk, her small hand limp in Tala's grasp. Tala's world shattered, a sob tearing from her throat as she cradled her daughter, whispering, "My heart, my light." Winyan's face, peaceful at last, held a faint smile, her pain gone. Daniel knelt beside Tala, his tears falling, his arms wrapping around her trembling frame. The room spun, the hospital's sterile walls blurring, as Tala's grief consumed her. She kissed Winyan's forehead, her lips trembling, memorizing her daughter's warmth. Nika arrived, her face crumpling as she saw Winyan, and she hugged Tala, their shared sorrow a silent bond. The doctor stepped back, his voice soft with condolence, but Tala barely heard. Her world narrowed to Winyan's still form. She stroked her daughter's hair, whispering Hopi prayers, each word a plea for Winyan's spirit to soar. Daniel's hand rested on her shoulder, his presence a quiet anchor. Tala's heart broke, but Winyan's courage lingered, a spark urging her to fight on, even as grief threatened to drown her in its endless tide. The courtroom buzzed as Marsh faced trial, his face pale under the judge's stern gaze. Tala sat in the gallery, her hands clutching Winyan's woven blanket, her grief raw but her resolve unbroken. The reporter's evidence, the reel and photos, damned Marsh, his contracts exposed as theft. Lonan testified, his voice steady, detailing Carter's exploitation, sealing their guilt. The judge sentenced Marsh to years in prison, his empire crumbling. Carter's name followed, his film deals voided, his wealth stripped. Tala's chest heaved, justice a bitter balm for her loss. Nika squeezed her hand, her eyes fierce with pride. Daniel stood beside her, his presence a steady comfort, though his own grief for Winyan lingered. The crowd outside cheered, the verdict a triumph for the Hopi. Tala's heart ached, Winyan's absence a void, but the truth's victory honored her daughter's fight. She left the courthouse, the desert sun warm, vowing to carry Winyan's spirit in every step, her love a flame that would never fade. Tala stood in the village circle, the sacred drums beat echoing her heartbeat. She wore her ceremonial dress, its beads glinting, each step a tribute to Winyan. The elders watched, their eyes warm, calling her their daughter. Tala danced, her movements fluid, the sacred steps a prayer for her people and her lost child. The crowd's soft chants wrapped around her, a balm for her wounded heart. She felt Winyan's spirit in the wind, her daughter's smile guiding each turn. Nika stood nearby, her face proud, her own dance promised for the next ceremony. Tala's tears fell, blending with the dust, but her heart lifted, the dance a bridge to her daughter's memory. The village embraced her, their applause a homecoming, and Tala's grief softened, her purpose clear. She ended the dance with a bow, Winyan's love a light within her, urging her to preserve their heritage. The desert stars shone bright, and Tala knew her fight had honored her daughter's life. Daniel knelt beside Tala in the village, a blueprint spread before them for a Hopi cultural center. "This is for Winyan," he said, his voice soft, his eyes warm with love. Tala nodded, her fingers tracing the plans, envisioning a place to teach their dances and stories. The elders blessed the project, their voices a chorus of support, seeing Daniel as one of their own. Tala's heart swelled, her grief tempered by purpose. Winyan's spirit in every line of the design. Nika offered to teach weaving, her laugh a spark of hope. Tala and Daniel worked side by side, their love a quiet strength, binding their worlds. The village buzzed with plans, children eager to learn, and Tala felt Winyan's presence, guiding her. They broke ground at dawn, the desert earth warm, and Tala's tears fell, a mix of sorrow and joy. She held Daniel's hand, their shared dream a tribute to her daughter, a legacy to heal her people's wounds and honor Winyan's fleeting life. Nika led a group of young Hopi dancers, her voice clear as she taught the sacred steps Tala had fought to protect. "This is our heart," she said, echoing Tala's words, her eyes bright with purpose. The children moved in rhythm, their laughter blending with the drum's beat, a new generation rising. Tala watched, her chest tight with pride, Winyan's memory in every step. Nika dedicated the dance to Winyan, her voice breaking, and the village joined, their chants a tribute. Tala's tears fell, her heart full, seeing her daughter's legacy live on. An elder clasped her shoulder, calling Nika a new guardian, and Tala nodded, grateful for her friend's strength. The desert sun warmed the circle, the dancers' shadows long, and Tala felt Winyan's spirit, a gentle breeze urging her forward. She joined the dance, her movements soft, a mother's love woven into each step, ensuring her people's heritage would endure, a flame kindled by Winyan's courage. The newspaper's bold headline reached the village, proclaiming Tala's fight against Marsh and Carter. Tala read it by lamplight, her hand steady, the words a mirror of her struggle. The article spread nationwide, inspiring other tribes to guard their traditions, their voices rising. Tala's heart lifted. Winyan's sacrifice, a spark for change. Daniel showed her letters from supporters, their words warm with gratitude, calling her a hero. Nika laughed, pinning the article to the cultural center's wall, a badge of honor. Tala spoke to a reporter, her voice soft, sharing Winyan's love for their dances. The village buzzed, children chanting Tala's name, their pride a balm for her grief. She walked the desert, the stars bright, feeling Winyan's presence in the quiet. The world knew her daughter's story, and Tala's heart swelled, her loss tempered by purpose. She vowed to keep fighting, Winyan's spirit a guiding light, her legacy a call for justice that echoed beyond the desert. The village gathered at dusk, their faces glowing with torchlight as they welcomed Daniel into their circle. An elder draped a woven sash over his shoulders, naming him a protector of their ways. Tala stood beside him, her hand in his, her heart full as their love bridged two worlds. The crowd cheered, some white townsfolk joining, their presence a sign of change. Tala's eyes shimmered, Winyan's memory a gentle warmth, approving their union. Daniel smiled, his voice soft. "This is home." Nika clapped, her laugh bright, urging them to dance. Tala and Daniel moved together, their steps tentative but sure, the village's chants a blessing. The desert night wrapped them close, the stars a canopy, and Tala felt peace, her grief softened by love. She whispered to Winyan's spirit, promising to live for her, her heart steady. The circle tightened, their voices rising, and Tala knew their fight had forged a new path, one Winyan's courage had illuminated. Tala stood in the village circle, the sacred dances safe, her heart a tapestry of grief and triumph. Marsh and Carter languished in prison, their schemes shattered by the real and Lonan's truth. The reporter's words echoed nationwide, a shield for her people's heritage. Tala's name rang as a symbol of courage, her fight Winyan's legacy. She danced for her daughter, each step a prayer, her tears blending with the desert dust. Daniel joined her, their cultural center rising, a beacon for future generations. Nika's young dancers twirled nearby, their laughter Winyan's echo, carrying their traditions forward. Tala's heart ached, her daughter's absence a wound, but her love burned bright, a flame that honored Winyan's sacrifice. The village embraced her, their pride a home, and Tala felt Winyan's spirit in the wind guiding her. The desert stars shone, a testament to her fight, and Tala vowed to live for her daughter, her dance a promise that their culture would endure, unbroken by greed or loss.